guys, welcome back to my YouTube video. I have something new for you guys today. We are doing a full leg day voiceover. So today's training session is my third leg day of the week. I'm hitting all parts of my legs. A little bit of quads are sprinkled in there, but a big focus is on my hamstrings and my glutes, which every bikini competitor needs more of. So let's just get right into the lift. We're going to start with a warm-up, and then we're going to go into a little bit of priming accessory moves, and then hit our heavy compounds. And remember, whatever you do, focus on intention. Control the weight. Don't let it control you. And you don't have to be switching up your training session every week. You should be on the same training program for a couple months at a time and really just focus on progressive overload. If you're switching up your movements week to week, like let's say you're doing barbell squats one week, and then next week you're going to throw in like a hack squat, you're not really going to know if you're progressing and getting stronger at the movement if you're switching back and forth week to week. So write out your program that aligns with your goals and stick with that same program, and just week to week progressive overload, whether it be more weight, more reps, another set, deeper range of motion, more time under tension, whatever it is. Don't switch your workouts up, girl. Sure, it may be boring, but honestly, I believe if you are training hard enough, you're not going to get bored with the same training program. Same training program. So let's just get right into it. So first things first, we're going to warm up. Of course, do not skip your warm-ups. Here I'm just doing some hip mobility work just to help open everything up. If your hips are stiff and tight, you really aren't going to contract your glutes or your hamstring or your quads well. So I just do some swings in front of me and to the outside, and then just do some around the world to the front and to the back. Here I'm just doing some banded lateral walks, and this just helps me really activate those glutes and kind of wake everything up. Some cues here are just kind of push out through my knees and then pushing weight through my big toe in the middle of my foot. Alright, next, this is something new I've been doing, triple extension hip thrust from the ground. So if you see, I'm coming up on my toes and then bringing my toes off the ground when I come back down. And then first thing we're going to do here, getting into the workout, is some leg extensions. I love starting my workout with these just because it really gets my knees warm and just my overall leg really warm. Some cues here is I'm thinking about kicking up almost to the top of the roof with my quad. I do have my toes slightly pointed. I love using a band around the handrails, almost like it's a seat belt, just to keep me locked in the seat and really stable here. Next thing, we're going to move on to some hamstring curls. Hamstrings are a big thing I need to develop this all season. So here I'm doing a seated leg curl, and as you can see, I'm leaning forward, and this just helps me because when I lean back, I do tend to just kind of push my weight through the top of that handrail, and it honestly makes the exercise easier. So this is a way I just take the momentum out of it, and it feels really, really good. So I definitely recommend you guys try this. Next on the menu is some adductors. So a big thing here is I do have my feet slightly off of the platform at the bottom. I'm really just thinking about squeezing through my adductors and only using them to move the weight. And then next, we're going to go on to abductions. So still kind of just warming up my hips and getting the glutes activated. And these are really great for your glute medius. A lot of people sit forward on these, but I've learned that sitting back is the way to go, and it just makes it so much harder, and I connect so much better with my glute med. Next, we're going to go into some stiff leg deadlifts. These are a great hamstring exercise. So a lot of people ask me what are the difference between stiff leg deadlifts and RDLs. Well, RDLs have a more knee bend and more glute bias, where stiff leg deadlifts, your legs should be more straight, and these are more hamstring bias. So some cues here is I think about shooting my hips towards the ceiling. I keep my core engaged the whole time, a neutral spine, and I really just think of hinging my hips back and driving through with my hamstring. Alright, next is every girl's favorite, but not really. I hate hip thrusts, but they are so good for glutes and just to really isolate them. I do prefer to do my hip thrust on a Smith machine just for the stability aspect and a consistent setup every single time. My preferred setup here is a bench that has one notch down. I just line my sports bra up with the edge of the bench. I do have my feet on some wedges here, and this just helps me put my weight through my whole foot and not just like my heels or anything. So when you do hip thrusts for glutes, you should always think about keeping your knees over your heels. And you really want to get a full stretch at the bottom and then really just drive up through your hips. There are different methods to do this. There's the scoop method. I prefer the hinge method where I'm thinking about hinging my hips back and my whole body just kind of moves with a neutral spine. One of the biggest things about a hip thrust is that squeeze at the top. Not many exercises really focus on that squeeze like a hip thrust do. So I do spend like 2 to 3 seconds holding at the top, a really slow down, and then I think about just hinging my hips back towards the bench and then just driving up super hard through my glutes. I actually do hip thrusts 3 times a week, and on this day I do more of a pyramid set where I do my first set with 15 to 20 reps. Then my next set, I will do 12 reps. And then my last set, I aim for 8 to 10 reps. And I do a double drop, as you see here, which is kind of crazy and kind of makes me want to pass out. But oh my gosh, it feels so good once you're done. And your glutes are just so pumped. And this is just a really great way to overload when you don't think you can increase the weight or the reps. So if you need a way to intensify a workout, think about including something like a drop set, a double drop, or even rest pause sets. But definitely give some drop sets on your hip thrusts a try. An exercise I never really used to do for glutes, but now I absolutely love and actually do 3 times a week, is leg press. So here I'm using a Cybex leg press, which I love because the weight literally comes over top of you. So more of a glute biased leg press, you want to have your feet higher on the platform, and then you kind of want a more shoulder width to narrow stance, whatever honestly feels better for you. Something that's really helped me connect with my glutes here is going really slow on the eccentric, spending time at the bottom, and then when you drive up, think of almost sliding your feet forward and just really pushing hard through your glutes. So we're still on the leg press here, but we're going to do some unilateral work now with a single leg press. So you see how high my foot is on the platform? That is really what makes this glute bias. If you were looking for more quad here, you would have your foot slightly lower on the platform to get more knee flexion. But I am doing 3 sets here, 10 to 12 reps. And a big thing with your unilateral work, especially on leg days, is don't be afraid to rest between legs. You really want to make sure each leg is getting adequate rest and is ready to go for that next set. If you think about it, if you're just really pushing hard on one leg and not the other, you're going to have imbalances. So next, one of my absolute favorites for the glute medius and honestly a great glute max exercise is hyperextensions. A lot of people struggle to feel their glutes in this and get a lot of back, so here are some tips I have. First, I love loading the easy bar and using that as my weight. And if you can tell, I do have my feet slightly turned out and a knee bend. As I go down, I'm just really thinking about reaching out, and this just helps me get a really good stretch on that glute. And then of course, just squeeze the heck out of your glute at the top. Alright, this exercise has become a recent favorite of mine, and that is cable glute step ups. So I'm using a bench here, and I'm just really thinking about putting my weight through my midfoot and honestly my big toe, and then slightly some in my heel. As I go down, I'm not thinking about bending my knee and just getting to the ground. I'm thinking about hinging my hips back. My non-working leg is honestly just for stability, and I'm not pushing up at all with it. Your working leg should have all your weight. For the handle setup, I'm just using a little D handle, and I wrap my hand through and actually hold the cable itself. The reason I do this is it just helps me not compromise my range of motion at all and just get a really good stretch on that glute. Another thing I wanted to mention here with the setup is when I put my foot on the bench, so I'm doing my right foot right here, I slightly put it to the left of the cable, and I think about going down and kind of rotating towards the cable. You don't have to do this, but it just kind of puts more of a stretch on your glute medius, and it feels so good. Last but not least, she sure does in fact hit calves. So here I'm doing some standing calves on this little squat machine that my gym has, but I also do some seated calf raises. With calf training, I really like to emphasize that stretch at the bottom and really just think about driving up super hard through my calves. And that's the workout. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you ever have any questions about training or literally anything, just DM me on Instagram, and I will catch you next time.